What console are we going to do today? Alright then, Saturn, you got it. Welcome to my review of Strikers 1945. I am the Nasty Bedazzler, and I've invested a lot of time and money into my retro console setup and decided I should make some videos for you to watch. Let's go right into narration mode, starting now. Strikers 1945 2 is developed by Psikyo, and it was released in arcades in 1997. It is a vertical shooter, if you can't tell by the footage, which, unlike a lot of people, is my favorite kind of shooter. The Japanese version was released in 1998 for the home consoles, the Sega Saturn and the Sony Playstation, and in North America in 2001. Europe got it a year later in 2002. The game is up to 2 players simultaneously, and at the start you choose between several different ships, each with their own different attributes. From the default settings, you are given 3 lives, and you earn another life at 600,000 points, or you can change it in the settings so it's every 800,000 points. Do whatever you want, have fun with it. I assumed because of the title that this was going to be tied into World War II, since they picked a very interesting random year to put into the title. However, the story here is a little bit different. As it turns out, you are in a rebel force called the Strikers, and an evil force known as the FGR is up to some nasty shit, and nobody in this world thinks putting all their eggs in one basket is a bad idea, so it's up to only you to stop them. And seriously, look at this footage. It looks just like World War II. I can't even tell the difference. Strikers doesn't really break any new ground in many departments, although it does try to do some things differently, though not very many. For starters, the bombs aren't just screen-clearing bombs like in most other shmups. Every plane has a different weapon, like this one here, where an armada joins you and blocks all the oncoming bullets, like the plastic sheets covering your mattress in a bukkake. There are also 2 modes of fire, one of which is rapid fire and the other is a continuous shot, until your meter on the bottom left builds up enough from kills to charge and fire a few powerful missiles. Once you can get a grasp on this mechanic, it's actually very useful switching between rapid fire and a charged missile, then back to fire during the boss battles. Just make sure you change the controller setup in the options before actually playing, unless for some reason you really like the crappy layout that shmups on the Sega Saturn always seem to have, where both A and C fire and B is the bomb. I mean, this layout sucks, and almost every shmup does that. I have no idea what they were thinking with that. Speaking of the bosses, the ones on display here are generally pretty rad. They aren't exactly going to kick your asshole in like some of Cave's offerings, such as Mushi-Hime-sama or Dodonpachi, but the sprite work is above and beyond many other shmups, and for the time they definitely beat anything offered by the Super Nintendo, PlayStation, or Nintendo 64, which honestly just hasn't aged very well, and that's apparent through most of the game. Many, if not all, of the bosses are multi-stage war machines that start off as some kind of ship and eventually break down into some sort of mech or other death machine. As you can see from the footage, the design of the enemies and the bosses in this game are generally good to great, and it isn't difficult to appreciate what Psikyo did here. I will also commend Psikyo for the music and sound on this one, as it's mostly these driving metal MIDI guitars with plenty of explosions and chaos throughout. Generally very well done and very Saturn era, but I would say it is above average for the genre, having played a shitload of shmups over the years. All that being said, there are a few things I'm not a huge fan of that are worth mentioning. First thing worth noting is that the hitbox is ridiculous and it's huge, something I'm not entirely a fan of in bullet hell shooters. I feel like if the screen is going to be full of bullets, you should have a smaller hitbox to give you a chance to maneuver through enemy fire. However, this is a minor complaint. While I did get used to it, it's just not my favorite thing ever. Maybe I'm just spoiled by cave shooters. I don't know, whatever. Second, on the console versions, from the 5th stage onward, you must start from the beginning, and you lose your score with every continue. Upon beating the game restarts and the difficulty increases, or at least so I've heard, since I can't beat the goddamn game. Made it to level 7 and had to throw my controller at the wall because of the insane difficulty, which really ramps up around the same time that continuing resets your level progress. Go figure. Seriously, this game is harder than getting your grandparents to tip the waitress at a Golden Corral during the early bird special. I might have a ton of games here, but I never said I was good at them, and for the most part I'm not, so there's that. Overall, Strikers 1945 2 is a fairly standard but competent shooter, and it's competently made and beautiful to look at. It's easy enough to appreciate the love and the effort that the developers poured into this game. It obviously isn't some cash grab, it's a genuine product that's made by fans of the genre. The little detail put into the enemies and the levels are very impressive for the time, and everything looks handcrafted. There aren't many shortcuts taken here. Any fan of shmups will recognize the name of the developers, Psikyo, and they're known for some of the best shooters during the 90s, such as the original Strikers, Sengoku Blade, and Soul Divide, which are all great games. If you got a Sega Saturn or a PlayStation, check this one out if you like shmups. I think you can do much worse than this one. So that's my brief review here. I'm keeping this one short as it is my first review video, and I'm more or less just getting familiar with creating and editing these videos. Please do a complete stranger solid and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this one video, as there are more on the way. I'm mostly going to focus on retro gaming, as I've got quite a few consoles from the NES on, and went through the trouble of connecting them to a capture card, so I figure I might as well put them to good use and make some content for people to watch. At least that way I kind of feel like I didn't throw my money down the goddamn toilet. Thanks for checking this one out, and I'll see you on the next one. I'm thinking I'll do something from the Neo Geo, but I'm not entirely sure yet. I've still got to finish this one, and in order to do that, got to remember how to edit videos, since I haven't touched shit like this in over a decade. This is more or less just a refresher course for me, so who knows what I'll actually feel like doing on the next one. Anyway, thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys on the next video.
Look at the celery, Gordy.